Sitting here recording. All right, pleased to be joined by Mike Uva. You know, I got to say, Mike, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of media people here. You're an Emmy winner. You're a South Carolina insider. But I hate to say, I mean, my favorite thing about you, Bojangles named a freaking sandwich after you.
Not a lot of Massachusetts Division II corners were getting NIL deals, so it's about 10 years too late. But, you know, we just re-upped our deal, so here we go. Some free Bojangles there. But no, I joked around with, I think it was Peter Burns last night or Chris Dory, and I said it's going to be my Al Bundy moment. You know, years from now, I'm going to be telling everyone about it. Like that'll be my
Bojangles guy.
That will be my 4 touchdowns in one game at Polk High moment. You know.
Well, is there a better meal than the 4-piece Supreme? I mean, if we're talking Bojangles here.
No, we have to. We have to say the Uva. That's what they named after me.
I'll tell you, I got a lot of buddies that are Bojangles friends, but you may be the one that's only in shape, you know? So, I don't know if you're eating one a week or what.
Well, you eat 5 a week, and you look just like this. You know, that's the secret, you know? Forget Weight Watchers. All you need to do is some Bojangles, put a little that legendary iced tea, you're good to go.
So, obviously, you're here to cover the Gamecocks. Mm-hmm. So much optimism there. Shane Beamer's got that thing rolling, killing it in the transfer portal. I mean, how great of a time is this for Gamecock Central to be covering a program on the rise in the East?
It's special. I mean, this is my 7th season covering the Gamecocks. I've covered the SEC for 8 years. The buzz right now is higher than I've ever seen it. But then you go back to even the days when Spurrier was there. You talk to the Marcus Lattimores of the world, the Alshon Jeffries of the world, the Steven Garcias. And they're more excited, it seems like, now than what it was like back then. You know, when they're going out there beating Alabama, pulling off upsets because number one, they know what Shane's all about because they remember what he was like when he was an assistant under Spurrier during those earlier days in his coaching tenure career. Now he's here as a head coach, and he's implemented a lot of that. But at the same time, too, after what took place over the last couple seasons, just the apathy that set in with not just the fan base, but I think even some former players towards the end of the Will Muschamp era. I think it's just brought them that excitement back. So the fact that you have Shane, he's just a likable guy. He's very, just authentic. You have the 7 wins last season, but you're able to get Spencer Rattler in the offseason. You're able to add pieces like free agency through the transfer portal. It's just added to that. So there's just a buzz right now in Columbia that's very special. So, you know, obviously at Gamecock Central, us making the move to On3, the timing couldn't be any better because the buzz is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah.
So the way Beamer's building his program, you think it's more sustainable for long-term success in the SEC, you think?
Only time will tell, and that's a question that I'm sure he's going to be asked today. I mean, I think the reality comes down to is this. You have to be able to, number one, you have to win games, but if you want to continue to take advantage of the transfer portal, guys like Spencer Rattler, guys that are coming in, the Christian Beal Smiths at running back, the Devontae Reeds at safety, you need to be able to have them have success. Yeah. And they need to be able to make an impact when they get here so that when he goes to the transfer portal next season or for years to come, he's able to point to those guys as examples. You know, one guy that I'm always going to use, because I played Division II football at the same school as him, was Carlin Spittel. He played at a Division II school in Massachusetts. He transferred into South Carolina last season. He had 1 year left, started the last 6-7 games at nickel, and now he just signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when you have examples like that, you can point to them as a coach and say, hey, look, you have 1 year left. Right. Doesn't matter where you started your career, whether it be Division II Assumption College or Oklahoma, in this case it's Spencer Rattler. If they go on to have success, you're going to have success when it comes to recruiting for years to come, or at least the next year. So I think to answer your question, it's a combination of obviously success as a program, but the individual success as players when you do get them from transfers, because you can use them as examples, because players are going to want to know, okay, why should I come here? Yeah. Well, you should come here because, all right, you know, we have a good program, but at the same time, too, look what we've been able to do with players to develop them to take their game to the next level, and they've gone on and done some great things, and now they're in the NFL.
Are you worried about the expectations coming in? We talked earlier about Palmer.
Oh, me? No. Shoot, I haven't played in years. I don't think I'm going to pull anything. No, I think here's the reality of it. And I've said this before, South Carolina's schedule, and look, it's the SEC. I remember asking George Rogers this question a couple of years ago about how tough the schedule is. He's like, Mike, it's the SEC. He's like, it's always going to be tough. So Gamecock fans complaining, it's like, it's always going to be tough. Mm-hmm. So when you look at it and seeing that they have to play Arkansas week 2 on the road, and then you got Georgia week 3, it's a possibility South Carolina starts the year off 1-2. because you have the combination of difficult schedule on top of the fact that Rattler and this offense are going to be doing everything they can to be meshing and trying to come together as quickly as possible. So, yes, there's a possibility they start the year off 1-2. Even though it's year 2, I still believe it's the honeymoon phase, that everyone's, holding hands, singing Kumbaya. Columbia is all a beautiful place right now. That will change quickly.
Yeah.
All the praise that you're hearing about Beamer right now, it can turn quickly. Beamer's not ready to be a head coach. I knew it. He got lucky last season. Rattler's all dried up.
Yeah.
You watch how quickly that happens. I say all that because if that does happen, how do these players respond to it? Because for a majority of this team, when you look at it, right, last season, 7 wins. The year before that, in the 2 seasons before that, they had 6 wins combined. Yeah. So the majority of this roster, they don't know what success looks like. Is it the same type of success as Georgia? No. Is it the same type of success as Alabama? No. But it's success, 7 wins. Right. How do they handle that now that everyone's telling them how great they are? If they start off 1-2, that will change quickly. How do they bounce back from that? So that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking I say not forward to. Don't want to see them obviously start off 1-2, but that's one of the things I'm interested to see if they do take some hiccups early on in the year.
Well, 2 of the biggest breakout candidates in the SEC last fall, Ole Miss and Arkansas, you know what they had in common? Super seniors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what South Carolina's got coming into this year. I believe the number's 15, which I don't know if there's a higher number in the SEC. Do you think that could lead to Gamecocks, again, we realize how difficult the schedule is, but could that lead to the Gamecocks exceeding expectations potentially?
It certainly can help, and I think the best thing that has happened to this program, and you talk about those super seniors or just seniors in general, even juniors, how quickly they bought in to Shane Beamer and just what this coaching staff's trying to do, because you go into year 1, the seniors that you already have there, right? They're not Beamer guys. They were recruited by Muschamp, right? Yeah, you might get some transfers to come in, but they're not Beamer guys.
Right.
Whatever they do and however they go about things, that's how the underclassmen are going to respond, because they're going to think that's the norm, right? So the freshmen last year, the Juju McDowells of the world, they're going to see how the upperclassmen handle their business. Mm-hmm. And if it's like, I don't agree with what this coach is doing, not saying that you can't overcome it, it's just going to take a little bit longer. So the fact that these players bought in as quickly as they did, it really allowed South Carolina to put themselves in a situation heading into year 2 that, of course, the expectations are higher, but they're in a better position right now than I think a lot of people expected them to be in comparison to when they fired Will Muschamp and where they were before they hired Shane. So does that mean South Carolina is going to go win the SEC East this year? I'm not saying that, but I think when you talk about where they are in terms of, okay, we want to say a 3-year plan, 4-year plan when Beamer got hired, compared to December of 2020 we got hired, I think they're in a much better spot right now, and a large part of that has to do with the upperclassmen, the super seniors, and just how they responded last season as a year younger.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. Who's a better corner prospect going into their senior year? Mike Uva out of Assumption or Cam Smith there, the preseason All-American?
Well, I'm hoping that this is the year I finally get the call. I mean, we've seen some good things out of Division II guys. I mentioned Carlins Patel, Malcolm Butler. I remember seeing Malcolm when he was coming out of college and playing in the Medal of Honor Bowl, the old Medal of Honor Bowl.
Right.
And,
I thought you were going to play quarterback last year.
No. If they need me, hopefully. But I'll tell you about Cam. So I had the chance to cover him in high school. He's really grown. And I think what I'm more impressed with him more than anything is just the maturity, because there were times where, he'd get down on himself. There were times where he'd get a bonehead penalty after the play maybe. What I think has helped him out a lot is he's had to grow up off the field because of his birth of his daughter. So I think that's allowed him to mature in that sense, but he's become a leader on this defense, and he's finally healthy, knock on wood, So heading into this season, I think he's a player that's going to get tested early on. And we've seen South Carolina produce some very talented defensive backs. I mean, shoot, you don't have to go back too long to see J.C. Horn being the first defensive player picked in the year prior to the NFL draft. So I think with Cam more than anything is how are they going to use him? He has the ability to play outside that traditional corner spot, but his skill set, which makes him just so versatile, I think that's what's going to help him from an NFL standpoint when you talk about stock, is he has the ability to play that nickel spot. So where do we see him lined up? I think the answer is we're going to see him all over the place. The question is, where does South Carolina need him to play the most? I think you can see him play more nickel to start the year, and then until South Carolina feels comfortable to be able to move him more outside. And, matchups. I think it's all going to come down to matchups as well.
I got a player question because I've watched Marshawn Lloyd since day one. I've never been more excited to see a running back. Obviously, the path hasn't been easy for him, but do we see a breakout season this year? I mean, I don't think we see loaded boxes like we've had, last year, but I just think this is a year that Lloyd just pops.
I think we do. Now, I'm going to preface all that by saying this. What is it going to look like now that you have Spencer Rattler?
Yeah.
What is it going to look like now that you have Christian Beal-Smith, who after spring ball, the coaches were very impressed with? So what does that makeup look like? What does the workload look like? But one thing I can tell you about Marshawn is he is mentally back. Yeah. He's not thinking about the injury. He had numerous conversations, because I do a podcast with Marcus Lattimore. Marcus shared a lot of the conversations he had with Marshawn away from the cameras and all that. Marshawn was just thinking so much, and it happens. It doesn't even have to be an ACL injury. It could be a foot injury. I mean, it could be anything. Lower body injuries where you're thinking every time you make a cut. So Marshawn going into this season, he's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good, but he never took a hit in a college game.
Yeah.
So coming back, he was himself. He feels good this spring. He was really moving around great. I think you're going to see a kid that, number one, is just ready to go. He's committed to the point where this offseason, because he's good friends with Luke Doty, he rooms with him, Luke wants to give him like a chocolate chip cookie. He won't put that in his body. He doesn't want to screw up the Ferrari, if you will. So he's doing everything he can. That's how committed he is. But I think more than anything, that makes three of us. He's not putting any Bojangles in him. But he's just the type of guy that is just so locked in mentally. He's just going to go out there and just play. And I think that's the biggest thing.
He needs to get hit. Week day one. He needs to.
And he's the type of player, when he does get hit, that's when he gets better.
That's good.
But the beauty is with their running back, I mean, you could say thunder, lightning, and then some hail. I mean, I don't know. They have three very talented running backs. Christian Beal-Smith is going to be someone who I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. I think a lot of people are going to look at Marshawn, and rightfully so. And then Juju McDowell, what a fun guy just to watch. I mean, the guy can just do it all. You get him the ball, I mean, he's just juking guys left and right. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do in that running back room.
Yeah. Last thing I got for you, Mike. Last year, obviously, a lot of criticism from Marcus Satterfield, but people will be amazed how good of a coach you are when you get this influx of talent. On the offensive side. There should be loaded with weapons around Spencer Rattler. What's the ceiling for this offense, you think, with Marcus Satterfield engineering it?
I think the ceiling is the ability to finish second in the SEC East, and it all comes down to how quickly they can start meshing early on in the season, going to that Arkansas game. If they can start the year off 2-1, I think that changes everything. Because even though right now, and I haven't made my decision, not that I'm sure everyone's holding their breath waiting to see when I'm going to make a decision on the East and West picks, but right now it's like, all right, I could see Tennessee finishing ahead of South Carolina in the SEC East, but yet I can see South Carolina beating Tennessee. And the reason being is because I think South Carolina, as the season goes on, I think they are going to get better. I think the offense is going to start to find their stride. One thing I will mention, though, because there's some people that are, even Gamecock fans, they're worried about the offensive line.
Yeah.
Well, this is two things I'd say about that. One, you bring everyone back. Some Gamecock fans probably still are like, oh, great. Number two, and I think this is the biggest part, and it wasn't really as reported as much as it probably should have. Greg Atkins, who was in his first year last year as the offensive line coach, he was dealing with a lot of health issues. He was away from the team multiple times last season. When you don't have a first-year offensive line coach, especially when you're having issues with, trying to click from an offensive standpoint and just trying to figure out what is working, right? When you don't have the same coach teaching you everything, it's going to throw things off a little bit. Greg is in great health right now. He's doing awesome. Knock on wood again that he's going to be fine. But being able to have him around, as you would hope for any coach, is going to be huge for them, especially going on to year two. So I think you're going to see an improvement from the offensive line. I think more than anything, though, Spencer Rattler, and I keep using this description, he's going to be makeup. He's going to be covering the blemishes of that offense. You don't need All-Americans across the board at O-line, receiver, running back. He's talented enough to be able to give you a little bit something, to be able to make it look a little bit better. And as we saw last year with South Carolina, there were a couple games, of course, that they squeaked them out. But there were in other games, though, they also had the chance to be able to pull out. Having a guy like Rattler could make the difference with being able to win 2 additional games this year.
on your way out, can you tell the audience where to find you and what you'll be up to here at SEC Media Days?
I'll be getting ready for the big media reception party, hopefully, if we finish everything off on time. Hopefully my boss isn't hearing me. Brian, I'll bring you back a drink. Complimentary cocktail to go. You can follow me, Mike_UVA. We are on Gamecock Central as well. If you are an On3 member, doesn't even matter if you're a Gamecock fan. Depending on who you follow, if you are an On3, you have the ability to read our content as well. So go check it out. On3 is doing a great job. We're really looking forward to season number 2. Yeah. Over there with those guys. So, first season for us at Gamecock Central and On3, but second season for On3 just as a whole. So very excited. It's going to be a fun week. Good to be back in Atlanta. A little spaced out. Hopefully that weather will slow down. And Shane Beamer will be speaking to the media. I know we're taping this around noon, but he'll be getting here shortly. So looking forward to it.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mike.
for your
I
time.
appreciate you guys. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.